Welcome to the CoDaKrew podcast match week 9 predictions for the Premier League. Our scores from last episode, as well as our scoring system, are on screen now, with Swapno still 4 points ahead. But with that being said, let's get into our first match.
Yeah, we have Leeds hosting West Ham in a match between two sides who right now are both desperate to get some breathing room away from the drop zone.
And the difference is, these two teams, they both lost their last match, but I will say, I had high expectations for Nuno's West Ham in their first, having very winnable home match, and they got absolutely dominated. Whereas for Leeds, they lost two, but I would say they actually had the bulk of the chances. They looked pretty good, but it's always that finishing for this one team that they're just unable to take advantage of their chances.
Yeah, Leeds have been struggling for consistency, and I would also say a lot of that is rooted in their inability to finish. They can dominate possession and shooting and XG, which they did against Burnley, but it doesn't matter when their clinicalness in front of goal is close to non-existent. They had strong opportunities through Harrison, but they failed to capitalize. Burnley, I'd say, didn't even play all that well. Leeds was just worse on the day. And my big concern is that they can create chances, but they just fall short when it matters most. I'd rate most teams to score at least one against West Ham, but after Leeds got so much of the ball from Burnley last weekend and couldn't find a goal, I'd be concerned they have similar problems here.
Part of the concern, of course, is also we don't know what's going on with the injuries, right? As of right now, Dominic Calvert-Lewin looks like he is still the number one starting striker for this Leeds squad, which I think is quite a big issue. There are obviously several other players, like we don't know about Wilfred Onto, we don't know about Ampadu, so that could obviously impact their midfield, their ability to score, their ability to have basically multiple lanes of attack. And I think even though, yes, they're going to be at home, and yes, this West Ham squad has not looked good so far under Nuno, they're obviously going to go with the low block. And I think, I agree with you, man. I just don't know how good Leeds is going to be at effectively dealing with that.
Yeah, I mean, Leeds, they are good at controlling possession, to be fair, and they'll definitely be doing that here at home. And they'll press high, I'm sure, with the energy from the crowd to back them. But to make that work, the midfield trio like Ampadu, Longstaff, Stash, they will need to dominate the midfield to provide service to their forwards. They really cannot allow opportunities for West Ham on the counter. That is like the one thing basically that West Ham has in this game is counters if Leeds messes up. And so they just have to be very careful in the midfield. And hopefully that way they can just lock West Ham out of scoring.
I will say as well, for West Ham, it's always just the same two players, I think. It's always Jared Bowen and sometimes
Yep.
Lucas Paqueta
But
who are going to be the focal points of the attack here. I say this every week, but I think it's very important for people to understand this. So there's going to be a lot of emphasis on Goodmanson in particular to defend against the counterattacks from the wings by Jared Bowen. He also likes to just central. He will try to obviously mess with the Leeds defensive back line because especially as like a newly promoted side, that is obviously one of the tactics that the established Premier League teams try to take to take advantage of that. And then same thing for Lucas Paqueta. Sometimes he'll go into a match and he'll just score bangers out of nowhere, right? It's very hard to predict with this guy. So I have like similar thoughts with West Ham that I do with Leeds as well. I think if these two guys are not on their day here, they're also going to struggle. But if they are, this could be like West Ham scoring 3 goals.
Yeah, I mean, with the last game though, because Nuno made some interesting changes. Paqueta was playing as like a false nine. Scarles and Walker Peters were underlapping. The tweaks though did not make much of a positive impact because it was still a 2-0 home defeat. They couldn't find a goal. The backline was as frail as ever. And as much as I've clowned West Ham for relying so much on Bowen, at least he is a somewhat consistent scorer. The back line doesn't seem very consistent. I think attacking is one thing, and they do need to not be so reliant on Bowen and on Paqueta, but they rarely need to do a good job at creating a cohesive defense. And I know Nuno is good at that sort of thing, but he has to tighten it up fast if he wants any chance of staying in games and finding a few points.
Yeah, I think we should also basically highlight. I know Thomas Susak is back as well. Him and James Ward-Prowse are going to be interesting because if they can get balls up to that attack, I think that could be a big problem for Leeds because, especially like we were saying, Leeds has the dominant midfield, and so West Ham not only will they be countering, they're going to be trying to do play long balls and play through in that way. And I think if they do that, they could potentially cause a lot of issues for the Leeds United backline.
Yeah, okay. I'm just going to make my first call of the episode here then. I mean, despite controlling large portions of that last match against Burnley, Leeds wasted many chances. That inability to capitalize on opportunities has basically been their Achilles heel this season. They can, though, at least rely on West Ham not to be too much of a threat on the other end, besides Bowen and maybe Paqueta. Ultimately, I think Leeds' attacking issues will remain, but they'll have enough decent chances at home to get the job done. West Ham's defense just looks too vulnerable for me to see them holding up at a raucous Elland Road. So I'm going to have Leeds coming through 2-1.
I would actually have a more conservative scoreline than that. I think I also have Leeds winning. Similar reason, I think the fact that they're at home, the fact that they've actually played pretty well, whereas clearly West Ham are still trying to adapt into their new system, is going to help Leeds here. But I would just say, again, with the lack of finishing that Leeds have, I just don't see them scoring more than one goal. So I'll just go for 1-0 Leeds win.
Yeah, fair enough. And then now we can move on to Sunderland, who aren't quite top five anymore, but they're only off on goal diff, and they might hope to change that here as they visit fifth place Chelsea.
That's kind of crazy that this match is like
This is for European spots. This is a Champions League spot on the line with this match here. Yeah.
Man, I cannot believe that Sunderland are doing this. With all the injuries, too, man. Like, a lot of losses in the back line. Habib Diarra is still out. Chris Rick has been doing... I mean, I shouldn't be too surprised because we know the potential that this guy has. But it's just crazy that Sunderland seem to apparently have this much depth as a newly promoted side. The question is, though, yes, they were able to do that against Wolves without Habib Diarra. Will they do that at Stamford Bridge against a much stronger Chelsea side? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, and I do want to say, I mean, the expectations for Sunderland have changed so much over this season to the point where, like, a win against Wolves was very much the expected result, especially against a struggling Wolves team. But I do think the overperformance they've had in XG in that game, as well as just generally in their season, is a bit interesting. Now, I know, Darian, you don't tend to use XG too often, but I do find it interesting. Sunderland is maybe in the bottom 3 for XG in the league, something like 7 expected goals, and then they're one of the largest outperformers with 9. They have this tendency to play less of the ball at home, and they nick goals and wins off less shots than their opponents.
I will say, one of the reasons why I don't use XG as a definitive stat as much as I used to is that this is like something that a lot of people say. It doesn't account for who the player is, right? Like, it doesn't account for who's taking the chances. I would say for Sunderland, XG for a shot is much lower for headers than for regular chances.
Yeah.
And I mean, they should consider that this Sunderland squad is full of players that are basically aerial experts. So a chance for those players is going to seem like much lower on the XG scoreline than it actually is in practice for Sunderland. So I think we should be taking that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, that's fair. We did talk about it in our league overview, right? Rise of set pieces, so that's fair. But even still, it's just like, I don't know that Chelsea, with their much stronger backline than Wolves can offer, an overall stronger roster, is going to allow Sunderland to get a win with plays like that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I still don't think so either. I would say, essentially what I said last week about Chelsea, I would repeat. Like, we've seen this especially now with the UCL Knights as well. They have a lot of depth in the midfield. Bruno Nate, Lavia, those were 2 players I mentioned. We saw barely play, but they are absolutely quality, and we saw that against Ajax. With the rotations that Chelsea is making, they're going to have a very strong squad, near 100% squad coming into this match. And I think even though Sunderland have been able to hold their own against a lot of these Premier League teams, that gap in midfield quality is going to show in this match. And I think the back line for Sunderland as well, we could potentially see a lot of issues there. Because, if Chelsea have the one, again, talking about set pieces, that one corner technique, you chip it in near post, a guy dinks it, and then it stops with chaos. I don't know that Sunderland know how to defend that. And I would also say this pace of Sunderland's attacks, even though they're not a counter-attacking team, just the speed at which they can go at you could be an issue for Sunderland.
Yeah. And I mean, that 3-0 win over Nottingham, of course it looks comfortable on paper. I do think they were a bit disjointed in the first half, but they had that second half surge. They took it back. Goals from Neto, Ashiampong, and then like you said, they went to Ajax and they won 5-1 in their UCL game. So they look good right now. In all likelihood, in this game, they're going to dominate possession, and I think Sunderland will let them. and they will be making quick, precise passes and taking lots of shots, I'm sure. And I imagine instead of the fullbacks being the ones to score, as they weirdly were in that match against Forest, it'll probably be Pedro or maybe even Diu, who might now be playing against his former loan team, getting those goals.
Did
And
he even play for them, or was he just like, I don't even? What,
he did a few
he was there
times.
for like
It
2 months.
wasn't it was like a 2 month loan, I think is what it
Yeah,
was.
like,
They did
okay,
call him they called him back pretty fast, yeah. But anyways, like Sunderland, they're gonna have low possession, low shooting as usual. It's just I don't think it's gonna cut it here against Chelsea. So I'm gonna say it's Chelsea to Sunderland no.
Yeah, I agree with you. Chelsea to Sunderland. No, I don't see Sunderland scoring here. Obviously Chelsea with a much stronger back line, a lot of rotating during those UCL nights as well, and they just have too much quality.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, next game then. Two teams who both lost by a goal last game. Very similar part of the table they're in. We have Newcastle playing Fulham at St. James's Park.
I will say Newcastle, I think, have performed pretty well in the Champions League so far. They obviously 3-0 win against Benfica this week. They played quite well against Barcelona as well. I think we're starting to really see Newcastle being able to take advantage of their depth. One thing I would like to point out in that 3-0 win, they did not play a single one of their midfield starters. They did not start Anthony Alenga, and yet they were so dominant. And not only does that show like they're starting to build a team that can go the distance. Again, that means for this match against Fulham, they will be able to play a near fully rested squad as well.
Yeah, and I was a bit concerned after that Brighton game. Obviously, the structure that Howe has restored in recent weeks, it mostly held firm. There were some lapses in the midfield and just supply to the attack that really limited what they were able to do against Brighton. But they fixed that, I think, for the most part against Benfica. And even in that Brighton game, they defended well. They were in shape. They pressed selectively. It was just the connections from midfield up to attack that didn't click. But again, they clicked in that last game. They got their goals. And I think they're like the framework is really sound here with this team. The execution just maybe needs a bit of sharpening. And I think like they will have a very good shot here against Fulham. I don't see too many issues with their roster. They're pretty well off injuries wise. So I think they'll get their chances here on goal. It's just about finishing at this point, really.
Yeah, and speaking of finishing, I mean, absolute howler that Fulham had against Arsenal. Not only obviously not scoring, but the fact that of all those shots they got, not a single one was on target. Yeah, I don't think Raya had a single save to make in that match, if I'm not mistaken. So I could potentially see something pretty similar happening here. I'm getting a little bit worried about Fulham's finishing at times, and I disagree with you, man. I just agree with you, man. I think like Newcastle's going to dominate the midfield here. I think Voltemade has been excellent since starting or since joining Newcastle. His link-up play is great, and I just expect Newcastle to get the majority of the chances here. And I don't want to say run riot, but I think they're gonna probably get a comfortable win.
Yeah, I mean Fulham in that game, they had pretty decent defensive cohesion, but the problem was definitely higher up the pitch. Minimal offensive output, or the output shots wise wasn't the worst, but they were just poorly chosen. Transitions through Iwobi or Wilson, they broke down too easily, and the midfielders struggled to push up to support. Until Fulham can solve their attacking disconnect, wins are going to remain scarce. But they do have injury problems right now. No Jimenez, no Muniz. So I think they'll just have to play pretty similar to how they did against Arsenal and just hope that Newcastle leaves a
I
few more
think Jimenez
gaps.
is back, right?
Is Jimenez back? I think Muniz is still gone at least, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So they'll just kind of have to hope Newcastle leaves more gaps than Arsenal did for the next play. But again, like I said, Newcastle seem like they're playing fine right now, and their defensive structure has been pretty strong. So I think this game shapes up quite nicely for Newcastle to get back on track. And I think they break through before halftime, seal it late. It'll be a 2-0 win for them.
I think it's no coincidence that Anthony Alanga is the one player that was rested during that Champions League match. We saw, I think Anthony Robinson is still out for this Fulham squad for this Fulham size. I would say arguably he was the best left back in the Premier League last year. And against Arsenal, Bukayo Saka absolutely cooked Ryan Sessegnon. If he had 6 or 7
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
completed
Great, great.
dribbles.
Nice.
So Now, Elanga is not quite at Saka's level, but he is obviously a very solid player. He is fully rested coming into this match. He will cook for Newcastle, especially with Otomade feeding him the ball. So I kind of expect Newcastle to possibly overcommit, and Fulham can take advantage of that. But in the end, a comfortable 3-1 win for Newcastle.
Okay, fair enough. Same goal margin either way. Yeah. And then now we can go to Man United. They are hosting Brighton at Old Trafford. Two kind of resurging sides right now, and they're each seeking to solidify their momentum here.
Yeah, very good day for the United Strand, which, if you don't know, is the one guy who cannot cut his hair until Man United win 5 games in a row. For the first time in Ruben Amorim's tenure, they are 2 of 5. So very good news for him. And man, like I said last episode, I was very hesitant about how to predict the Man United match against Liverpool. I said that they could very easily draw or even win that match, which obviously they ended up doing. But there was the issue of consistency for Man United. And maybe they're back, but again, it's still only 2 games, so it's really hard to tell with the squad.
Yeah, but it is all about consistency for them. I said in our last video they were more cohesive and balanced in their game versus Sunderland than we'd seen in a while. And I questioned, given their inconsistency over Amorim's tenure, whether they could keep that up. And unfortunately for me, they did. They didn't really need flair. They managed it just through discipline. They're compact out of possession. They were patient with the ball, ruthless from set pieces. Like, this team does not need chaos to find their chances now. They can be strategic. They can hold some control. It's not like, say, in that second leg versus Lyon, where it was just score, 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 and that's all they could do. There's still not an overflow of creativity in the open play, but again, the organization compensates for that, and they are starting to look like a team that can really manage games well, rather than just need to keep chasing those goals. And I think it creates a good outlook for their season.
Yeah, I think there were some. I do actually have to give quite a bit of praise to Emery. Like, for example, subbing off Casemiro and Mason Mount, who are having bad games. I think coming to the match, I think this was never going to be tactically a very good matchup for Mason Mount. And I know there's going to be now some Man United fans that want him out of the starting lineup. I still think he deserves a spot, or at least should be one of those rotational players the way Chelsea sets up, where your front three is different depending on who your opponent is. He is incredibly scrappy, can find a good pass. I'm not saying he's at his level, but like he kind of reminds me of, you're gonna say I'm glazing, and Inzaghi, if you know what I'm trying to say.
Oh. So, okay, yeah.
Oh yeah, right. Like just play style, not
sure. That's
play style.
Okay, no, that's not unreasonable.
Yeah, and we also have to point out, man, Shane Lemons. I don't know. He is their best keeper since David De Gea, man, by a long shot. He is willing to pick up crosses. He will get in the rough, and he's not scared to do so. And he's actually competent, and he knows he's not going to make mistakes. And I think, is he the best keeper in the Premier League? Obviously not. But just having that consistency, having, the United defenders being able to trust their keeper like this for the first time, is improving, like, the defensive line for everybody on this Man United squad.
Yeah, dude, having a decent goalkeeper is such a big boon for Man U. I do think, like Man U, though, Brighton really fixed their big issues in this last game. The main one for me being a lack of chance creation. You had Rudder's central drifts, Ayari's line-breaking runs. It gave the Seagulls a very lively attacking rhythm in that win versus Newcastle. And it helps, I think, that they are one of the most tactically flexible sides in the league. That they can make changes like this and still play pretty well, pretty cohesively from game to game. And now I think Mitoma's returning, so they will be even better off in terms of creativity. I think they just need to stay patient, keep with their positional play, and try to exploit any hesitation from United. It is unfortunate that they're playing a United team that have just gotten to pretty decent form, but I do think Brighton can still find some openings here. They have a strong enough attack for it.
Is Mitoma confirmed to be back, or?
I think he's likely showing up again. Yeah,
okay. Because that obviously, his replacement Diogo Gomez is injured, so if he doesn't come back, that's
a big issue. Yeah.
So I wasn't sure about that. And I will say, like, obviously, as you're saying, Brighton very adaptive, but I'll also say whenever they play outside of the, like, staying back and sort of exploiting the wings attacks on counters, I think I do see a little bit of inconsistency here. And I don't want to, like, drag on too much about the start of the season, but, like, matches like like not be able to close out against Wolves or Fulham, do worry me a little bit coming into this match. Obviously, West Ham is, or not West Ham. Obviously, Man United is a different sort of match than this. But I think tactically speaking, I don't expect Brighton to try to sit back, and so I'm not really sure whether or not they're going to be able to act on their tactics in this coming year.
Yeah, I think just expect United. They're going to sit back in their 5-4-1 like they did against Liverpool. They'll be very careful not to leave too much space amongst them. And so, yeah, Brighton, they're just going to have to continue with that possession-heavy football and try their best to pull United's shape apart. And they do have good players for it, like Rudder, who can move between the lines. But again, it's just looking good for United. It's unfortunate again for Brighton that they have to play a United that have finally started to play well together. And just, I think the longer this game stays tight, the more it's going to favor United here. And they're just showing really steady improvement under Emery, and it feels like a solid chance for them to secure all 3 points. And I'm going to say they score 2 and Brighton only get 1. So it's a win for Man U again.
I once again have the same scoreline as you. There are a lot of factors that this depends on. I agree with you. If Man United sit back, if they seem to go in the direction that Amrin is suggesting, which is playing Harry Maguire, a lot of experience alongside with De Ligt and Euro, and they start to incorporate Ugarte into the starting lineup, I can definitely see them being a lot more solid defensively. It's Brighton will struggle to break down the low block, and I think Man United have clearly shown that on the counter they have the pieces to take advantage of that. So I will also give them the 2-1 win.
Yeah, fair enough. And now we can go to Brentford, who have finally found a couple of points in their last 2 games, and they will look to keep up the so far decent momentum against recent stragglers Liverpool.
A team that has lost 4 games in a row, who went from title locks to seemingly capitulating. It's obviously still early, but I think Arsenal are now 4 points clear. I'm going to let you talk about your club again. Like, tell me, how concerned are you right now about Liverpool?
I mean, honestly, after the 5 straight losses, I didn't have high hopes for us going into the Frankfurt game in the UCL. The United match exposed a lot of flaws. It is 4 straight. The 5th game we finally won again. Yeah. The United match, we struggled to cope with high pressing. Our finishing was pretty lacking, and we conceded late on yet again, just like against Palace, against Chelsea. But after a somewhat shaky start against Eintracht, we kind of crushed them, and there were clear improvements. We got momentum back. We very quickly found rhythm in attacks for 3 goals in a 10-minute spell. Sobo was great as always, creating chances, scoring from range. Wirtz finally got on the board, and he could have had a goal towards the end if not for Salah being...
Still no goal contributions in the
right.
itself.
Yeah, that's fair. But it's looking better for his form, and the defensive issues, which is the main thing for Liverpool, weren't completely erased, but there was a much-needed solidity, I think, across the entire team. And it is Frankfurt that we were playing, who aren't as good as they were last season, but it's still a strong showing, and it gives me hope that we can finally, maybe, find some momentum in the league as well.
Yeah, I will say, so I think Jeremy Frimpong, for the second time this season, is now injured. I'm starting to wonder if this is a blessing in disguise, this match, because my understanding is Alexander Isak is also injured, right? So, with Isak out, yeah. I would say Ekitike, at least so far, has looked tremendously better for Liverpool. I've made the argument that Szoboszlai should be starting at right back, and I think you could just as easily argue, I should say, that Ekitike should be starting for Liverpool. Because, again, we've had this conversation before, but Liverpool are clearly big spenders. They should be a team that is willing to drop a big money purchase on the bench, because that's sort of, that's what the high money clubs do. So
yeah, like a City. I mean, we are for the first time in a while doing City level spending.
Right. So yeah. I think if you want to, if that's going to be the game you're playing, I think this is a good opportunity to do that.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, as for Brentford, I think they will be pretty pleased with themselves coming off a dominant win away against a post-Potter West Ham squad. And I'd say the key takeaway for them is they're looking a lot sharper in attack. 22 shots, 5 big chances, I think. they were really able to break down the defense. Thiago's physical presence was great up front. Shada also brought them a few opportunities, and Coyote, I think, had a standout performance. He had like 6 chances in open play that he created. It was great from him. And not only are the Bees getting into dangerous areas often, but they are making good use of their best opportunities. And I think paired with a solid backline and an improving midfield, they will be tough opponents for Liverpool to play away. But again, unfortunately, like with Brighton, where they have to play a Man U that has just gotten back to form, it seems like Liverpool maybe might get a chance to come back to form here. So it's perhaps unfortunate timing for Brentford.
I would say, I would say, arguably I would arguably actually say West Ham got a bit lucky to only lose 2-0 against Brentford. They were, like you were saying, absolutely dominant. Coyote with a performance I did not know he had in him. Maybe we have been disrespecting him this entire time. But I'm still a little bit worried about Brentford's finishing, honestly, especially when breaking down low blocks. That being said, Liverpool is not that kind of team, and I would like to remind you once again that this is the same Brentford squad that through counterattacks got a draw against Chelsea, that beat Man United, and that also beat Villa using the exact same tactic. This is a Liverpool squad that is going to press up high. This is a Liverpool squad that has had persistent issues with the fullbacks. I think Brentford, I'm not going to say they'll win. They can probably take advantage of that. Again, I think they're going to score.
Yeah, okay. No, I agree with you. And I mean, it must have been like a month ago or so where I said that with Gahey still at Palace and Leone out for the season, we would need to keep covering for our defense with our attack until at least the winter transfer window. We started having trouble getting the ball up the pitch, lost that attacking spark, and because we couldn't cover for our defense with our attack, we'd eventually get scored on, and for the last 4 games, we just fell apart. But I think in the state we're in now, we are scoring. We really have to. We just got to keep going for goal. And I think most teams, if we do well with our attackers, they just can't do much to us. And Brentford, for one, though they have shown like they can counter well, and obviously our team leaves opportunities for counters, I just don't think they have the quality to deal with everything that we could throw at them. And so, kind of like that Bournemouth game, where it was Liverpool scoring early, Bournemouth came back for a bit, and then an extra goal or two for Liverpool. I think it'll be similar here. I'll call a 3-1 win for the Reds.
I am okay. Seriously, I promise you.
Is it this? It's the same again. It's the same again.
Yeah, I don't know how to
Okay.
do that.
It's the margin points, man. Because I think subconsciously we want like the 2-0 covered as well.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
exactly what it is. Wait, so hang on. Remind me, which matches do we have the same scorelines for again? I think Chelsea Sunderland. We both said 2.
Chelsea Sunderland we had a 2-0. Yes. And I want to say
We had the same score.
yeah.
And this match, did we have the same score? Newcastle Fulham.
Newcastle Fulham was a 2-0.
Oh, so we didn't have the same there, but
Okay.
still the same margin and the same margin leads. Anyways, so I'm getting off topic. Yeah, 3-1 Liverpool. I think it's pretty similar reasoning. I see this honestly being more similar to like the Everton match that you guys had early on this season. I think Brentford. I think it's honestly more likely that Brentford score first. They take advantage of Liverpool trying to settle in, basically the same way Frankfurt does. And when Liverpool get the chances, when they show the quality that they have, I think they are going to eventually win this game. Because, I mean, there's always a chance this becomes like a generational City run, but man, you never want to bet. You would never want to bet on that. Like, I feel like every time you try to bet on that actively, it always backfires.
Yeah. You did say compared to the Everton game. I think in the Everton game they scored last. No, if I'm not mistaken.
They did. Sorry, I don't mean to say that. Yeah, I don't mean to say that it was gonna like go to the same way. I was saying
Right.
more like the way. I guess it's like high level how the match is gonna go broadly, if that makes sense.
Okay. All right. I guess then we can go to, well, the team that has topped Liverpool for the title odds, Arsenal. Their hunt for their next title continues as they now host a side that's become a bit of a giant killer with Crystal Palace.
Yeah. Well, not just become. First off, uh, in case people are not in the know, please editor swap it out, flash this on screen. Arsenal now have more than 50% odds of winning the Premier League, the heavy favorites. And I've got to say, it's gone from a two-horse race between Arsenal to Liverpool to now seemingly Arsenal being the clear favorites with Liverpool sort of slumping down to the Man City level odds here. So obviously far from wrapped up the Premier League is right now, and I think the biggest potential issue here for Arsenal is that with obviously the injuries, they have the depth to actually cover on that. I think during normal match weeks, but the fact that they basically have to play a near starting 11 in the Champions League is going to potentially be problematic against this incredibly solid Palace side.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, they did put up a good performance against Atletico. They obliterated them, I would say. For now, it's 7 clean sheets in 9 games, so the back line is holding up. I think like Rice and Zubimendi as well are more than capable of controlling the midfield. So, like I've said before, it's a balanced team all around. But yeah, it is maybe a concern that they're a bit fatigued, and Palace are a very strong team that you just have to take seriously. But then again, Palace also have dealt with like some cup games and European games recently, so that's not necessarily an issue that's unique to Arsenal. I think ultimately, though, just like barring another injury crisis, Arsenal seem quite well set for their next stretch of games.
I do still agree with that. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, 2 Premier League games in a row, Arsenal did not concede a shot on target. I think, it was Fulham and West Ham to be fair, but still pretty impressive. I will say though, for Crystal Palace, I know that Mark Gahey, it was like Glasner announced recently that Mark Gahey is not going to be staying with Palace after
Yeah,
this
he'll
season.
be gone by the end of the
But I
season.
think they do great man management over there at Palace. I think Glasner is able to keep very good relations with all of his players. Like even after like they probably had a mutual agreement that Eze was going to leave relatively early on, and Eze still balled out for Palace. Like Glasner is more than happy to have players, take this as like a stepping stone in their journey, as long as they agree to the contract and continue to ball out the entire time. And that I'm basically saying that I expect Gigi to continue doing that as well. Um, my concern with Arsenal for this match, beyond just the fatigue, is that Palace they can sit back, and they can play long balls, but their counter can also be deadly. And I think if you sort of switch off on the midfield, that is sort of where Palace love to take advantage.
Yeah, just become such a dynamic side over these past few months. Their attacking numbers are like the best in the league if you want to look at like XG or big chances created, and they've kept their. I just have to say it. Like the numbers are good. I don't know how much you're into those stats, but
I
they
mean,
are good for
talk about
Palace.
XG all you want. They have Mateta on the squad, man.
That's the other thing I was gonna say. Like they almost managed to win in the dying minutes too, and I do think it was a bit of a sitter that Mateta missed there. But hat
It's
trick,
kind of crazy to criticize his finishing. Like, if for someone who doesn't watch the match, it will be hard to understand that we are criticizing a man who scored a hat trick. But
right? Because he could have. I think he could have scored with the chances. It was possibly like 5 or 6 goals. 4 would have been not unreasonable. 3 is still good. I couldn't complain about 3 goals from one guy. And they've kept their unbeaten streak. They've kept their unbeaten streak at home too from April. We talked about like their streak that they had in the league in all games, but they've been unbeaten at home for many months now. And though I'd usually have something to say about the defense for a team conceding 3, this game just felt like one that opened up. Neither defense could do that much about it. Wharton was a bit questionable, but the fullbacks seemed fine. And so I don't think defense will be that prominent of an issue for this game against Arsenal. So Palace can probably do what they do best. Fast transitions, low crosses, just ring up the shot tally. Having to play against Eze is a bit of a blow, but Palace still has a very strong lineup. I think they'll be good on attack here.
yeah, no, I agree with that. I think Palace. I mean, they can like punch up to really anybody, and I would still obviously give this to Arsenal. I'm gonna just say my prediction. I think Arsenal do get this one 2-1, but yeah, I think Palace are going to definitely keep up the fight for the.
Hmm.
Oh,
2-1.
Oh no.
Go on, go on.
I don't like wait I don't like your facial expression. Um, okay. Anyways, I think they're going to win 2-1. As you clearly do as well. I think Palace are very good at taking advantage of chances, long balls, counters, all sorts of ways. I know they didn't score in the Conference League match, but I will say they have basically scored for the past like I think 5 or 6 games before that in a row, and so that's why I'm saying that to continue. Even though Arsenal have been a shutout team, and at the end of the day, I think Arsenal just have more quality. They'll get a solid win. This is going to be like a Arne Slot last season sort of result. Is basically what I'm expecting.
Yeah, I mean, Arsenal, they're in good form at home. They've been generally dominant in possession at home. And I think the issue for them, like, they will be breaking through Palace's disciplined defense quickly enough to not give them time to find a good counter, because obviously that's what Palace want. And they are defensively resilient, so they'll make it difficult, but Arsenal have a strong offense and they can break through. I think maybe decently early into the second half, they'll find a first goal. Eventually, they end up with a 2-0, so not a 2-0, a 2-1 win.
Of course.
Yeah,
Yes.
that'll be the result for me.
Man, if we get like 30 points each at the end of this episode, we're gonna look like absolute geniuses. Oh, I'm gonna
Or we could get 0. Or we could get 0 each. That could happen as well. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Next game, then. We can come to Villa, UCL contenders last season, and they're now showing, with their recent form, they might still be worthy of Europe leading into this next game, where they now host Man City at home.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's Man City.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say. Villa, obviously, this is a concern from the start of the season. There are issues with their depth, and I think Europa. I almost said Champions League with Europa League matches coming into to the season. The fact that they had to deal with that already, I think it's going to be an issue for Villa. Obviously, City had a Champions League match as well, but City have a lot more depth as well. Like this is, when we get multiple matches in a week, this is actually when City thrive. This is when City take advantage. So Villa are at home. Well, obviously strong roster. They are defensively solid. They can sit back. They have players that can hurt you. Ollie Watkins honestly a bit of an off season, but the other attackers around him have been pretty solid. So yeah, I don't know. It's tough to predict match, I would say.
Yeah, and Villa, as we're recording this, did have a Europa game earlier today against Go Ahead Eagles, which they lost, I'm pretty sure. I didn't look too much into it, but the stats at least seemed decent. So it's not like the worst showing from them, it looks like. And yeah, just like it's until that point, it was 5 straight victories in all competitions. And from what I've seen,
Basically,
yeah,
what you need to know is Aston Villa still do not know how to break down a low block.
okay. Fortunately, I don't think City will be in the low block. I think we'll be all right
Yes,
here.
this is
Yeah.
Pep Guardiola is not one to play her on ball, except against Arsenal.
Okay. Yeah. Much of the conversation I've seen from fans is that the squad feels complete. You have the defensive core led by Konsa, Torres. They've been consistently good. And as for the attack, we have seen lots of different players stepping up each game. Buendia's redemption arc continues. He had goal contributions in like 4 straight games. Matty Cash has been excellent down the right, and add in the tireless Onana anchoring midfield and the sudden variety of scoring outlets with players like Rogers, Watkins, McGinn, all scoring. Villa's attack looks very nice and balanced again. The energy is back. They have belief in their ability to score, and though they're not dominating their games, they're able to do the crucial things right when it matters. I think City are obviously never a team to be taken lightly, but Villa should be pretty pleased with their form and their outlook coming into this match.
Yeah, I think John McGinn in particular, has definitely taken a big step forward this match, or this season rather. I don't know if it's because of players like Asensio or like Rashford doing more of the goal scoring, but I think he having to pick up more of a direct attacking role rather than being like more of an assister to an assist sort of like Florian Wirtz kind of guy. I think he's definitely picked up the slack here. I would say Watkins a bit of an off year for him. I think the fact that like Aston Villa, as you're saying, they have so much quality, they have so many options. It hasn't been too much of an issue. Basically, after that 4-game slump, they have scored in every game since. So obviously offensively, we're seeing a lot of improvement there. But they're coming up against the Man City squad, who have, I mean, there are 3 strikers right now. The 3 best players in the world right now on form are Erling Haaland, Kylian Mbappe, and Harry Kane. And they have been absolutely electric. They're all averaging like 1.5 to 2 goals a game this season. And so, as good as Villa's defense is, to be fair, I am not sure that they're able to stop the absolute wrecking ball that this one-man band of Man City have.
Yeah, I don't have too much to say about City that's any different from what we said last episode. Professional 2-0 win over Everton, again relied heavily on Erling Haaland's finishes. With this most recent game that they just played against Villarreal, I think it's now like 23 goals and 13 for him. He's absurdly consistent. You have to wonder, though, at what point, against what kind of team, his scoring alone won't be enough. Pep has publicly called for more attacking contributions from the wingers, the midfielders, but the rhythm that Rodri or De Bruyne even would usually bring is missing now that, of course, one of them is injured and the other one is off the team. I think it's hurting the rest of the team quite a bit. And so, again, in this Everton game, they kind of had to fall back onto the pinging balls to Haaland approach. But I will say at least that their defensive control remains very strong. Diaz, Ake anchoring things well, so they can still control games. They just need to figure out how to turn that time on the ball into more chances from other players. If a team can figure out how to deal with Haaland, City need a backup plan lest they end up going goalless. But I don't think they'll have too many issues against Aston Villa. I think Haaland will find his chances. Because I think in their last game they just had against Villarreal, someone else did score. I'm pretty sure it was Silva. Maybe they actually do finally find someone else to score in the league.
I don't think there's a consistent guy for them because there's too much rotation going on. I will say,
Yeah.
this is the issue that Pep Guardiola has basically said a lot. He doesn't like having too many players that are competing for the starting lineup, right? It seems almost paradoxical, but I think it is definitely causing everybody except for the locked-in starters, which in the post KDB era is just Erling Haaland and Donnarumma. Everybody else is sort of struggling a little bit to get in the rhythm that they would like to. But again, every time you think, okay, this team has the tactics to stop Haaland, this team does. But this man has scored in 12 games in a row and 6 Premier League games in a row. Right now, he looks like he's going to smash the Jamie Vardy and Ruud van Nistelrooy joint record for most goals scored in Premier League games in a row. So, I have to stick to my guns here. I don't see how Aston Villa can possibly stop this man. And I think just by sheer Norwegian willpower alone, even though Aston Villa will continue their streak of scoring at least a goal every game, Man City with a 2-1 win will end up getting all 3 points here.
For once, I have a decently different result from you. Villa have been very resilient lately. They've grinded out wins even when they looked second best for spells in the games, and I think their recent run shows a real maturity in the roster now. Players like Buendia and Rodgers have started to step up alongside Watkins. They fixed that issue where they were relying a bit too much on him for scoring. And that is a pro over City again, who, while they do remain dangerous as ever through Haaland, they haven't had quite the same attacking rhythm without their creatives in the midfield. They still keep the ball, still take most of the shots, but there is a vulnerability there. I feel like someone can take advantage of it. I'm not sure whether it's going to be Villa. It is a bit of an out there call for me, but I think their newfound energy and the fact that they're playing at home, they can get some chances going the other way. And I think neither side does quite enough to pull away, so I will take a high-scoring draw. Villa 2, City 2, and that way, if it's like a 1-1, I can at least get margin points on that as well.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, I think honestly, I feel like I was on the Villa place train last season. I've stepped off that a little bit, I think, but I could definitely see it happen. What I will say is that Aston Villa obviously looked atrocious at the start of the season. They've definitely come back, but this stretch, I would say, is the big test for them. 3 games in the Premier League: Tottenham, City, Liverpool on the bounce. They beat Tottenham, looked pretty solid. These 2 matches are going to tell us whether or not this is really the Villa of last season, or 2 seasons ago, and they're going to continue improving under Unai Emery, or if they're starting to slip a little bit. So, you could very well be right. I'll be honest. You could very well be right about this. I'm not fully sure, but we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, they are 11th in the table, but they are only 3 points off Liverpool and Bournemouth up there in the Champions League spots. So, if they can get a win here or get a win against Liverpool, also, obviously, I'd prefer that not happen. But if they can find 3 points in one of these next matches, it could be a pretty good start for them to get back to the European places. Yeah.
Fair enough.
With that said, though, speaking of Bournemouth, actually, it's a team that has overperformed so far, been amazing at home, and for Sean Dyche, who has playing out his first game in charge at Forest, it will be a tough task for him, no doubt, to try and find some points here.
Yes, this is a Nottingham Forest side which has no Chris Wood. They are also missing Ola Aina. And while their fullbacks are actually back just in time, this is obviously going to be a tough ask for Sean Dyche. The main threat, the number one issue for them is Antoine Semenyo. He has been absolutely electric. He, according to both of us, is world class. Well, he's honestly had a little bit of an off, I would say a bit of an off game for the during in the Palace match. Sorry, I should rather say, because of Palace's amazing low block, and that is the style that Nottingham are going to use as well. And I would say that this Bournemouth team in general not just counters, but they rely on fast play, and I don't think that is the best strategy to use against any team that Sean Dyche is managing.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, because we've talked about how Bournemouth's setup is really well fit around Semenyo. And so yeah, that could be an issue if they have to switch things up too much for their own good. But then again, I will say, they kind of did the same thing that Villa did. They fixed their issue of being over reliant for one guy, for scoring. It's maybe an issue for Semenyo that he didn't get a goal, but a brace for Krupi, Ryan Christie adding some late drama. I think this new diversity in goal scorers is definitely a good thing for the team. Tyler Adams as well. Huge credit he deserves for anchoring the side. His positional discipline, his intensity have given Iraola's system a solid spine that has let him push up lots of players to actually get these goals. And speaking of that pushing, that high press, it's well organized and it creates one of the most cohesive midfields in the league. This is a comprehensive team in good form. It is kind of questionable their tactics against Nottingham's, but I think just like they're in such good form right now. They can compete against just about anyone. Maybe less likely that they get a win here, but they still have a good chance.
Yeah, they also have solid depth in that double pivot, right? Tyler Adams, Alex Scott. I would also say, obviously, Ryan Christie, not just scoring, but I think he is a very solid, a very underrated player in the Prem. Um, I said this to you at the time. I think this is the first time that I can remember in a while that Ryan Christie scores a goal inside the box. Uh, yeah, so obviously I agree. A lot of attacking threats for Bournemouth. I think a big key to their strategy here against Sean Dyche is to be using that double pivot to create not just long balls, but basically to use a Nottingham analogy, Elliot Anderson-esque chances. That's basically going to be the strategy here. The Bournemouth attack is obviously very strong. If you can feed the ball to them, again, it doesn't matter. Yes, Sean Dyche is going to slow them down a little bit, but they just have the quality, man. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah. I mean, okay, like Iraola's style with Bournemouth is pretty firmly established now. Aggressive pressing, vertical transitions. You have like Adam Scott to control tempo in midfield. Overloads from Semenyo. Like I won't, we've seen it. I won't speak on it too much. Force is obviously the big thing here. Bringing in Dyche is maybe the first step in restoring that structure that worked so well under Nuno. He's gonna probably go into his compact 4-4-2 or maybe a 4-4-1-1. Try and reintroduce some defensive balance. That is the big thing. And especially important against Bournemouth, who are great at going all out with the scoring. I guess in attack, expect Chris Wood to be the focal point. Gibbs White can maybe be a shadow striker. But yeah, the main thing is the compactness. It has to be really a disciplined display from Forest, even if it limits their attacking volume. Because like they're not gonna outscore Bournemouth at this rate. I think they just have to try and hold them off. Well, I shouldn't say outscore, but like outshoot. So like they need to play well defensively and then just hope their chances come.
Yeah. Um. Honestly, I think by any like reasonable metric, Bournemouth is going to win this match. But I'm biased. I'm going to assume that Sean Dyche gets the unreasonable new manager bounce that all the new managers seem to get for some reason. What you just said, Forrest trying to hold them to a draw, I think is going to somehow happen. And I'm going to say,
Ooh, okay.
even though Chris Wood is not there, they have other attackers that underperformed under Ange Postecoglou and that I think can potentially perform better on the counter in the system that they're used to playing. I'm talking about guys like Hudson Odoi, like my brain is blanking. You know who I'm talking about.
And Doy,
Jesus. Gibbs White, Hudson Odoi, and Dan Odoi
Okay, yeah.
is the other three attacking players basically. I think all of them struggled under Andrew's system because they were not playing counterattacking speed style ball, and they were rather trying to break down low blocks. I think against Bournemouth, they're going to be basically be back in their element, and I think they're going to be able to snatch a goal.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think Bournemouth's scoring will be held back a bit. Like you said, Forest's tactics are a pretty good match for what they've got going. But still, I think their superior cohesion and attacking fluidity should ultimately tell over 90 minutes. And I'm going to say that Dyche's men show early improvement in the defense, but they don't score just yet. So it's going to be a 1-0 Bournemouth win for me. Yeah.
All right. Well, then that brings us to the next match here. These are two teams that are not really in a great position right now: Wolves and Burnley.
Wolves are not in a great position. They're in a precarious position, still winless, bottom of the table after another damaging defeat. This time 2-0 to Sunderland, and they, particularly in attack, I think, are continuing to struggle. Strand Larsen's goal drought, of course, is a significant concern. They have an inability to create quality chances, despite occasional promising spells in games, and that's left them vulnerable to defeats like that last one, where a goal or two from the opposition is good enough to take 2 or 3 points away from them. We saw it like in the Brighton game, the Tottenham game, where they got scored on late both times, and now we've seen it here, where Sunderland didn't need to do that much scoring because Wolves didn't even have especially much of a threat here. The defense still looks a bit disjointed, conceding goals in like soft goals in critical moments. But again, the attackers, Arias, Larson, Hwang Hee-chan, that's where the real concerns lie, I think, because as well as the defense might do, if the best result Wolves can ever get is a draw, they're not going to stay up, man. It'll be like a Derby County type season. Hwang Hee-chan is? Okay. Oh, yeah. Is that a new injury, though?
Yes.
Is it? Okay. I mean, I guess they still have Strand Larson. Maybe he comes back to form. Maybe,
yeah,
maybe
he's gonna save them.
yeah.
Clearly.
He's gonna get all the goals he was supposed to have in the season. He's gonna get them here.
You're right. Yeah, no, this is the one match. Unironically, this might be...
It is like maybe their best chance at a win so far. No, I think it is their best chance.
This is honestly no. I think if they can't win this match, they're not gonna win in the Premier League. Like this is
Yeah.
This is certainly the easiest, most winnable match for Wolves' 4-3-3 system, I should say, that exists in the Premier League. I would say, and that's not to say Burnley are clearly the second worst team, but like you know you understand what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Look, the issues we can say about Wolves, I honestly think we can say about Burnley as well. I think Wolves has been a little bit more unlucky, and Burnley, I believe, have lost every game away from home. So again, if Wolves are to win a game at home, this just feels like the stars are aligning. So
Yeah, but it should be easy for them. Burnley, like even in the championship last season, they were amazing at home. They were pretty bad away, and they're shit now. They had the 2-0 victory against Leeds, but like I said in the Leeds segment, I think it was more down to their opponent's inability to convert chances than rather than Burnley's own brilliance. Um, they were able to capitalize on two key moments. Ugachukwu opened the scoring with a simple header. Shauna sealed the win with a stunning long-range strike. But again, Leeds were on top in almost every single big stat to back the offense. Possession, shots taken, XG from those shots. There's just a lack of attacking ambition from this Burnley side in comparison. And I get that they're a promoted team and this is how new teams tend to play in the past few seasons. But this is another promoted squad that they were playing in Leeds. I think in their current state, Burnley could be blown away by any side that can just do a decent job of finishing their opportunities. But the Clarets can at least take solace in the fact that Wolves will probably not do a decent job with finishing. So that's something in their favor, at least.
yeah, man, this is an impossible prediction. This is like I'm very tempted to say no here, honestly.
Who's shittier in this game? Honestly,
The thing is, because you have to consider Wolves' shittiness vs Burnley away from home shittiness, right? Because Turf Moor is really like dragging this team upwards. If they don't get relegated, it's because of Turf Moor.
yeah, I think Okay, I'll just give a scoreline. It's Wolves' best chance at a win, right? We can agree on that. Maybe their best chance for the whole season. They have, of course, looked set to get their first three-pointer twice before they gave up those late goals versus Tottenham, versus Brighton. This match at home is one that I'd actually give them a good chance of winning to start with. Burnley will come in looking to frustrate. They have a solid defensive structure. They're good at Haram ball. They managed it for a long time against Liverpool. But Wolves have the quality in midfield that they can control the ball. So long as they use their players well, and Burnley, of course, will let them have the ball anyways. I think Wolves, I'm going to say it, they finally get that elusive win. Maybe an opener around the half, like they had against Tottenham. But just with how Burnley are playing, I think that like one goal will be enough to beat them. So I'm going to say a 1-0 win for Wolves.
What you said.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's all. What is there to say with this game? How much more detail
Can
can I
we just
go
move
into?
on, man? Like, I don't want to talk
We
about
can.
this
Yeah, we can.
fucking... Yo,
Okay.
people said, like, Arsenal vs Atletico was, like, the Haram Ball derby, bro. This is the
This
actual
is Haram
derby.
ball right here.
This is, like, rainy night in Stoke, man. This is what we're talking about.
Burnley don't want to score. Wolves couldn't score if they tried, man. Okay.
That's a crazy state.
Everton versus Tottenham. Two sides coming off maybe disappointing results, hoping to lighten the mood a little for themselves anyways. Tottenham's first game at the new Bramley Moor against Everton. What do you think?
I would say, I think this is not necessarily a terrible opportunity for Everton here. Because we said last week, and as we said many times before, Tottenham is going to face trouble once they start playing multiple games in the same, multiple matches in the same week. Because they still have many key injuries, especially in the midfield. They basically have to play their starting three in the UCL as well, which they did here. And Everton obviously looked pretty flat against Man City, but you have to remember Jack Grealish was out for that match, and he is basically their key guy. So I think Everton are definitely going to be looking to strike here.
Yeah, and it was an unfortunate, very difficult loss for them to Man City because they had solid defensive structure for a lot of the game. They held off City for long stretches. I think City, of course, would be expected to score. The unfortunate thing is that Everton wasn't able to at some point. Beto's two missed chances immediately come to mind. Although he is a nice physical presence up front, he has been a source of much frustration for this team lately.
The fact he did not score that match is absolutely crazy, man.
That one goal where he was like clear on net. Yeah. So, like, their defense is strong at least, but their challenge now will be to create more clinical chances. And one has to wonder if that requires taking Beto off the starting lineup for now and like bringing in Barry or maybe shuffling Njai around instead.
The issue is I don't think Tierno Barry has been that much better either.
Yeah,
So...
yeah. They have a striker problem. Honestly, Everton's got a striker problem right now. Yeah, I think that is like their key concern.
And also, the thing is, like, Eamon Njai and Grealish cannot play striker. Like, Eamon Njai is basically like a Brennan Johnson equivalent, right, for this Everton squad. Except I would say he's a better dribbler as well. But, like, in terms of finishing, he loves far post. This basically letting the ball come to him, good positioning. That's sort of the kind of goal that Njai loves to get, especially with Jack Grealish doing Jack Grealish things. You know, it just fits very well. But obviously, Jack Grealish is not going to be playing centrally either. So, yeah, man, I don't know. Finishing is obviously the main concern here. What I will say, though, is that with Jack Grealish on the squad, I think people have not been flaming Beto that much. I gotta say. And I think the reason for that is because Jack Grealish has just been so good that he's masked everyone in this team's flaws.
Yeah, no, I can attest to that. That's fair. Yeah, what to say with Everton? Honestly, Grealish coming back is just such a big difference. It's hard to even work too much off of that City game. The fact that he wasn't there. Anyways, for Tottenham though, they entered that match with high expectations, had a good start, a quick start, but a series of unfortunate events, individual lapses, meant that they eventually lost 2-1. I feel like they kind of just faded as the game progressed. Lack of cutting edge in the final third, and despite dominant possession, they could not break down Villa's defense too often. And like you said, like we said before, Madison, Kulu, Bissouma, now Bissouma being gone, is clearly hurting Spurs' ability to create in the attacking zones. There just wasn't.
As well, by the way, so they now don't have a left winger.
There was not enough creativity in that game between like Kudus and Simmons to go around. And just generally, they have had an inability to convert possession into meaningful attacking play. To be clear, it'll be no easy task, but Frank will need to find more fluidity from his midfield to get back to winning ways, especially against a cohesive defense like Everton's, where maybe they can't score too much on you, but they can definitely keep your shots away. So, like, he will need better midfield work if he wants more chances on goal for Tottenham.
Yeah, and also Tottenham's like front four, I think, has been very much key to their defensive solidity. I understand. I think Christian Romero also might not be back for this match. They potentially will be playing Kevin Danso.
Dude, the injury list for Tottenham is actually insane. There's like 10.
They're cursed.
It's like double digits now. The players that are potentially unavailable for Tottenham. It's crazy.
It's crazy that and Postecoglou was managing this squad, man. Who made that decision? God. Yeah, and it's this early into the season too. I remember I made this comment, like, Tottenham have a starting 11 of injured players, and
wasn't that last season we said that?
I know. That's what
it's happened again.
I made.
Yeah.
I'm just looking like, shit. I think I could create something here, man. I think there's a pretty good starting 11 here. I'm better than Wolves. I'll tell you that much. Even with the players being played out of position.
Dude, Wolves are catching all the strays, man.
We'll just put I don't know. We'll just put like Basuma in net or something. It'll be fine.
Alright, back to the Tottenham Everton. Yeah.
Oh yeah, right.
Right. Of course. I mean, okay. You want to go?
I just want to listen. I think chance creation is going to be a big issue for this Tottenham squad. As we said before, it's Xavi Simons who I think is still like orienting himself into the squad, and especially Mohamed Kudus, who is going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting here. And when they have an off day, which we saw in the Champions League against AS Monaco, this team can fall flat, man. And again, like the more and more these same few players, because of lack of rotation, are playing in 2-3 matches per week, the more there's going to be this issue. And I think without that creativity, Tottenham are going to be in a lot of trouble here.
Yeah. I think it is an interesting test for them. They've shown some solid performances recently, but again, they've just struggled to find consistent goal-scoring form. 1-2 loss to Villa, 0-0 draw against Monaco just yesterday as we record this. Suggests they are having some difficulty converting chances, and Everton have been pretty solid at home. They're solid in defense especially. And I think even now, with Grealish back, they can be confident of getting on the score sheet with at least a goal. Spurs still have enough in the offense to push for a result. Their roster is still stronger than Everton's despite all the key injuries. But I think Everton will make it very tough with that defensive resilience of theirs. A few chances for Tottenham that maybe are broken up near the box. A good save or two from Pickford. And ultimately, I'm going to call it as a 1-1 draw. Both teams share the spoils.
I think 1-1 draw is very reasonable. I would just say Jack Grealish is going to go on a complete tear in this match. He's going to get 2
A win for Everton you've got?
Everton
2-1. 2-1, okay. Yeah, not unreasonable. You get the 1-0 if it goes that way. Yeah.
I don't think it will, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Anything else for this match week? I think that is the last match, yes?
That is, yeah. There we go.
Interesting match week we've got here. Arsenal Palace. I've got to tune into that. That will be the most amazing hate watch if Arsenal lose that one. Yeah, it will be. It will be wonderful for me.
I think that's going to be a good game of football, personally.
I'm actually just thinking it's crazy that I'm supporting Palace in that game because they've beaten us in like our last 3 matchups. I should be pissed at Palace, but I need them to win this one.
Unfortunately, I think they might be playing at the same time, but the United Brighton is obviously going to be a fascinating one.
Yeah.
And obviously Bournemouth feels Nottingham, right? Because I want to see what happens with this Sean Dyche. It could be we are reintroducing more and more Harambal into the Premier League. But man, Harambal might be what Nottingham needs.
Dude, remember when we were talking about long throws in the Prem overview? That's going to be wonderful, honestly. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you to everyone who stuck around. We're trying to get our videos like just slowly. We're making them shorter, so this will hopefully be a couple minutes shorter than the last episode, a bit of an easier watch. But yeah, for everyone who has watched until the very end, all 10 match previews, we thank you. And hopefully we will see you back next week for another set of Premier League predictions.
In 6 months, we're going to be having like 20-minute Flogden style Premier League predictions.
30 seconds per match, and it's enough to make like 2 shorts for every match.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, thank you, everyone. We will see you soon. Have a good one.
See ya.